All right, guys. So yesterday, McDonald's announced that the $15 an hour minimum wage is going to make them move towards automation. Okay. And this is something that a lot of people on the right economically have been saying for a long, long time about the minimum wage. Okay. They basically said, listen, increasing the minimum wage is just going to motivate a lot of these companies to automate away jobs in order to save costs. Now, as we know, in our current economy, there's a labor shortage, and that is causing companies to have to increase their wages because of that, right? Because they're essentially competing with the government for workers, right? That's what's happening. So with that being said, McDonald's CEO basically came out and said, listen, all right, well, we're raising these wages, but we just letting y'all know we're going to try to automate these jobs away in the future, okay? And this is going to cause an issue. This is something that Andrew Yang has talked about a lot. I think the Republicans will be smart to start talking about this more, okay, to actually start talking about things that are going to affect us in the future. And this is something that I'm kind of concerned about because, you know, I pay a lot of attention to technology and where technology is headed. And there are a lot of jobs that are in danger of being automated, right? Particularly service jobs and jobs like that involve transportation. Okay, a lot of people don't think these things can be automated, but they can be automated. Okay, the technology is going to get there eventually. So Reagan economist Art Laffer, who's famous for the Laffer curve, which basically shows the relationship between government revenue and tax rates. That's a part of supply side economics. He went on Fox News to discuss the impact of raising the minimum wage, and what he said was controversial to the left. Take a listen.
Okay, Austan wants to talk about the current McDonald's CEO, Kemzinski. He's noting that artificial intelligence technology has 85% accuracy with filling orders, with workers having to step in for approximately 1 in 5 orders. It's going to be a big leap, he says, to go from 10 restaurants to 14,000 restaurants. But there is no doubt they are working in that direction, Art.
Yeah, for those people, Sandra, who are coming into the labor force brand fresh, not old timers who've been around for a while, the poor, the minorities, the disenfranchised, those with less education, young people who haven't had the job experience, these people aren't worth $15 an hour in most cases. And so therefore, when you have a $15 an hour minimum wage, they don't get that first job. They don't get the requisite skills to earn above the minimum wage. And after a few years, they become unemployable. And after becoming unemployable, they become hostile. And that what you'll find happening is this technology has created an underclass of people who are really just bid out of the labor market and will remain out of the labor market for most of their lives. And this, I think, is just a tragedy. I love the technology, but the technology is replacing the jobs for these people. And it's a killer. It's a killer for just the people who need the help the most.
So people on the left got outraged by Art Laffer's comments. Okay. And the reason why they got outraged is because he basically said that minorities are going to be less likely to get jobs if the minimum wage is increased because their labor is not worth $15 an hour. He basically applied that to anybody entering the workforce. Now, again, the left got upset about this because he's saying that, oh, minorities aren't worth $15 an hour. They're not worth that, right? And that's what they're saying that he's strongly implying, okay? But little does the left know, an actual famous black economist, Walter Williams, rest in peace to him, God bless his soul, he actually made this exact same argument about how the minimum wage discriminates against low-skill labor, and he specifically talked about how it affects black people. Take a listen.
A lot of people say the minimum wage law is an anti-poverty device. It reduces poverty. Well, that doesn't even pass the smell test. I mean, because if it were an anti-poverty device, rather than our spending all these millions and billions of dollars in foreign aid, we just tell Bangladesh and Haiti, you could be rich like we are, just have a higher minimum wage. That's just utter nonsense. And then also, the empirical evidence on the minimum wage law, in 1948, the unemployment rate among black teenagers was 9.4%.
1948.
1948. The unemployment rate among white teenagers was like 10.2.
So it's lower.
It was lower.
Lower for blacks than whites.
Yeah, and the labor force participation rates for black teenagers were greater than white teenagers. Matter of fact, it was 106%. And so You say, well, how come in 1948? Was there less discrimination? Is that why? Or were blacks more in 1948 higher skilled than whites? No, it was the minimum wage law. And then also the extent of coverage of the minimum wage law, because when it first came out, I think, I'm not absolutely sure, it only covered about 40-some% of jobs. And so if you were thrown out of a job because of minimum wage law, there was this uncovered sector that you could go to. But now I think the minimum wage law covers like 98% or virtually all jobs.
Okay, so that's Walter Williams essentially making the exact same argument Art Laffer made on Fox News. But yet, again, it's Walter Williams racist for making this comment. To me, it blows my mind that the left loves to talk about this for how much they love talking about how minorities are so disadvantaged, how minorities don't have opportunity, and this, that, and the other. But the left doesn't think about all the opportunities that could potentially be lost for so-called minorities when you increase the minimum wage, because these jobs are not going to be incentivized to hire young people, right? Young people who particularly are made up of more minorities than ever before, okay? The most diverse parts of our population are young people. So if young people are being discriminated against when it comes to the minimum wage, right? When it comes to being in labor force because they're low-skilled workers, then who's going to suffer the most because of that? Minorities, right? Minorities, particularly young so-called minorities. They're the ones that's going to suffer. They're going to have their jobs automated away, okay, like what McDonald's is doing, or they're going to be priced out of the labor force. That's what's going to happen. But the left never thinks that way. They never think that way, okay? Is that everything has to be looked at out of the lens of race, when in reality, some of the things they actually argue for are hurting the people that they say they're actually trying to help. The bottom line is that companies are only going to hire labor that is worth $15 an hour, and they're going to try to maximize their profit for their shareholders. That's how capitalism works, okay? And again, the people that are going to suffer the most from this are people of low skill. Those people that the left says needs opportunity. They need opportunity. And this is important, guys, because I'm going to tell a personal story here. I usually don't do this, but I'm going to tell a personal story. When I grew up, right, when I was a teenager, when I was 16 years old, I got my first job working in a grocery store, okay? I worked for $7.25 an hour, okay? I bagged groceries, I cleaned up bathrooms, I cashiered, okay? I moved up to working in the deli in the produce department, still wasn't making that much money, made like what, $7.50, earned 25 more cents, okay? But what happened was that I gained a skill. Okay, I learned about customer service. I learned how to talk to people, okay, which is a valuable skill for young people to be able to learn at a young age. I took that skill, and when I went to college, I got the opportunity to do an internship in New York City, okay? New York City at a startup, a financial literacy startup that was working out of the same offices that Facebook used to work out of back in the day, okay? So this is a big time incubator, right? Startup incubator working for a Harvard graduate. Okay. All these people that worked in this place were big time in venture capital. They were Ivy League people, and somebody from the South, a black man from the South. I never had an opportunity before in my life. I never been to a place like New York City, and it was kind of an opportunity of a lifetime for me. But there was just one catch. The catch was that because it was a startup, the founder could only pay me $1,500 a month. Now, obviously, this is less than minimum wage, okay? Or right about minimum wage. I probably was working for less than minimum wage at that point, okay? And living in a city like New York City, it's hard to live off $1,500 a month. It's damn near impossible. But the opportunity was there, and I said, okay, how do I make this work? I decided that, hey, I have to sleep on a friend's couch in a small 2-bedroom apartment, paying $500 a month to just sleep on the couch. Again, no real room whatsoever. So I slept on the couch, and I did that internship in New York City. That internship in New York City allowed me to build skills, particularly learn more about financial literacy, okay, and how important that is. Learn more about venture capital, learn more about investments. And my skills and knowledge that I gained from that internship, I took that and I took an unpaid internship afterwards, right, at a wealth management firm, at an investment firm, to learn more about investing. Okay? Now, this was unpaid. But in order to get by, in order to make it, I Ubered in my spare time. I Ubered after work to make money. And that led to me eventually getting a job at one of the largest financial services firms in the whole world. And the reason why I got that job is because I was willing to work for less. I was willing to build up my skills with opportunities that I otherwise would not have gotten if those companies were forced to pay me more money. Because I valued the skills and experience more than I valued the money at the time. I knew that the skills and experience would lead me to get a better, higher paying job in the long run. And that's what happened. And then after I got tired of corporate America, I decided I want to do this instead. I want to be an entrepreneur. I didn't want to work for anybody, right? I don't really like working for people, to be quite honest with you. So that's why I'm doing this. But what led me to this, right, and led me to the ability to do this is all the skills and experiences that I had gained over time working for less. Okay, now that's not to discourage people and say, hey, you should work for nothing. No, that's not what I'm saying. But I think people got to realize the value of getting that initial experience, getting that initial opportunity. And nobody should go into that initial opportunity. For example, if you're a teenager and you get your first job bagging groceries, don't go in there with the idea that you're going to do that for the rest of your life. Go in there with the idea that you're going to gain some experience, you're going to get paid, okay? And then you're going to use that to get another internship or to get a better paying job or to do something else. You should always be trying to move up. Nobody should be trying to live off of these jobs working in grocery stores, particularly if you're a cashier or something like that. Obviously, if you're a manager, you manage a department or whatever, that's different, right? But you shouldn't be trying to live off of these jobs, okay? These are high volume, low margin companies, right? They're high volume, they're low margin. So a lot of these businesses, especially like the grocery industry or the fast food industry, it's really hard for them to pay $15 an hour, especially a little mom and pop restaurant, right? And people got to understand these jobs are not intended for people to live off of. They're intended for people of low skill to work. And obviously there's going to be turnover there, but they're built to handle that type of turnover. And I get it. There are some people that are unfortunate and that have to work those jobs for a living. And I 100% understand. And I'm not saying that, those people shouldn't be paid enough to live. But at the same time, it is the responsibility of those people to put themselves in a position to get a better job, to move out, to get out of McDonald's, right? To go to community college or some type of trade school, learn a skill, a high paying skill, right? Even if you gotta, work 8 hours a day and go to school at night, learn that skill, go get that education, improve yourself so that you can now go get a higher paying job. That's how it works. That's what you gotta do. You have to sacrifice. Again, this is not me trying to defend these companies or anything like that. What I'm saying ultimately is that you have to always be thinking about the next move, how to be better than you were the day before, how to build up your skills. And if people had that mentality, you really wouldn't have to worry about people that are living off of working at jobs like McDonald's and grocery stores and stuff like that. And again, I'm not trying to, put anybody down that's doing that. I'm just saying, if you're working that job and you don't feel like you're getting paid enough, go to community college, go get a job, go to trade school, go get a skill that's going to make your labor more valuable on the labor market. It's probably not a good idea to wait on the government to force companies to pay a so-called living wage. You probably should go out there and get that living wage yourself through improving your skills. It's really that simple. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.